Hi everyone and welcome to This is Arts. Today I'll be sitting down with Lebanese architect and sculptor Joseph El Hourany. But before we dive into that conversation, here's a quick roundup of some key cultural events that happened in Lebanon and around the world in the past week. At Mission Art Gallery in Beirut, Syrian artist Imad Habab's exhibition Oriental Resonance merges portrait and place in a poetic tribute to identity and urban memory. In Dubai, Lebanese artist Ihab Ahmad debuts Put My Brain on Pause at Firati Contemporary Gallery, introducing smiling faces for the first time as symbols of memory and emotional freedom. Central London lit up for the world premiere of Jurassic World Rebirth, the newest chapter in the iconic franchise. Starring Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan Bailey, the film follows a pharmaceutical company's daring mission to extract DNA from the world's largest dinosaurs on a remote island. And that's a wrap on our cultural roundup. Today's guest is Lebanese architect, musician, philosopher, and sculptor Joseph El Hourany, president of the Association of Arab Architects. Blending his background in music, architecture, and Arabic calligraphy with deep knowledge of over 46 calligraphic styles, he creates sculptural works carved from wood, making him one of Lebanon's rare voices in this medium. His pieces have been acquired by the British Museum and the Arab World Institute. Through his work, he's carving out an Arab identity, complex, layered, and entirely his own. Joseph, welcome to This is Arts.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for this intro.
Joseph, you're a man of many talents, but today we're going to be focusing on sculptures in particular, and specifically your relationship with wood. Okay. What made you choose wood as a medium?
I have started by doing sculpture on stone. And as you know, the stone is very complicated and it's rigid. And then I discovered that the wood is more flexible and it has this nature of veins that can dictate sometimes some tendencies through the work itself. So it can give you another kind of aesthetic even, and it's reversible. So sometimes you can revisit the sculpture itself and redo some modification. Mm-hmm. So this methodology is very interesting to be applied on the wood and not on other material.
Joseph, what did sculpting offer you that architecture never could?
In architecture, you have a lot of constraints. So I have started working as an architect since 1999, and you have a lot of definitions to apply: the economical side, the design side, the rules, the materials, the budget. Whereas in the sculpture, you don't have all these constraints. So you have the faculty to work openly on the wood itself, to create the forms without thinking what will be the cost, the function inside the sculpture. So in architecture, you have always a program that you should follow, and in sculpture, you don't have the program, and you can really play with the form as much as you want.
True. In your works, you bring together your background in music, sculpting, and architecture. How do you merge these three languages together in one piece?
It wasn't intentional. So I have started by building my sculptures. Since I was in the school of architecture, all my models were sculpted into wood. And then I discovered that the music itself is also a language, and you have the rhythm, the melody, the harmony. So even some artists consider the music as an architectural art. So between music and architecture, there is a close relation. And then I discovered also that another layer can be applied, which is really the writing with music. And then I started to do this va-et-vient between music and architecture, and I discovered that it can be an interesting language that I can apply to sculpture. And in the last layer, after my first exhibition, I started to introduce the Arabic calligraphy, and I to merge it with what I have done to produce what I'm producing.
I would like to focus on calligraphy in particular. You were mentioning earlier that to you, a simple word its meaning can actually change depending on the style. For example, when you write a certain word in Sufi, it can have a complete different identity or meaning if it's written in Diwani, for example. Tell us more about that.
Okay. The letters as a subject or a topic in art has been explored widely into art. So I'm not considering that I'm doing a certain innovation into art. So it has been used many in a different ways. And we reach a certain platform where this calligraphy is just a 2D dimension system with some extrudes that some artists try to extrude the letter itself without sculpting it. So this definition of extrusion through letters, for me, is very graphical, and it's not sculptural or architectural. Once I did my research about the fonts itself, as you have mentioned, maybe the Kufi, maybe the Diwani, I have started to discover inside the letter itself a certain space. So the letter itself has a space, and once I transform the font from Kufi to Diwani, I discovered that the space itself is shifting, and a certain morphing is happening. And if you examine my sculptures, you will discover sometimes that I'm using a style on a face and another style on the other. And once I intersect both, I discover that there is a third space that is emerging from this intersection. So for me also, it's a happy accident. I wasn't really aware that I can discover space inside the letters. And from this point, I'm still exploring the potential of styles that has been now vanished, or we cannot really, we are not using it. I'm trying to dig into these styles in view really to discover other kind of spaces into my forms.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of happy accidents, tell us more about the technique. Is it an organic process, or you start out by sketching?
Okay.
And then you
I
see
like
where it
that
takes you.
you are mentioning this, but because the happy accident is first a philosophical quote or studies done by Bergson. So as a methodology of research, there is something that we are calling the happy accident from Eureka, وجدتها. And this is very important into philosophy once you are talking about the heuristic side of discovery. So there's artist that is theoretizing his practice through this methodology. So first, the science didn't allow to do the happy accident. It should be very well systematic with a certain analysis. The happy accident is one, you are intersecting forms and you discover a third space or fourth one without knowing. It's unpredictable. So you are doing it, and then you discover that you are exploring, designing what has not been designed on the paper, and this is really what is interesting in what I'm doing.
The wood itself is unpredictable as
also,
well.
Because once you are working in the beech wood or in the oak wood, you have two different methodology, even if you are working on the same subject or idea as a design. So the oak is more flexible, the beech is more solid, and each one has a certain specificity dictating a certain language that is different from the other genders of wood.
How important it is for you to carry this Arab identity through your work, especially that most artists today in Lebanon, they're usually influenced by the West?
This is problematic for me, but I cannot deny that I've started by copying Henry Moore and all the celebrities. And a certain extent, I discovered that what we have is very important. So I'm not just searching to make the thing interesting. I believe that the Arabic calligraphy, the Arabic culture, this space, the big space that we are living inside it, has a lot of richness, a lot of specificity that are not explored till date. So I'm trying to study these things, and every time I'm doing it, I discover that the extent of what we can produce using the same components is beyond what we are seeing or bringing from the West. So I'm still convinced that our art is avant-garde, even if it's not considered like this.
How does it make you feel as a Lebanese artist to have your works acquired by so many international associations?
Sincerely, my project wasn't to be the artist, and it happened since I have met...
A happy accident.
Also, so my meeting also with Saleh Barakat was also...
Saleh Barakat, it's the gallery that
Yes,
you work
yes.
with exclusively.
So he was following me through many years. Joseph, we should do something, and I wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
And this became problematic for me after 25 years of sculpting without showing, because as a teacher or professor in the university, it wasn't possible for me to admit that I can be criticized. So I was criticizing everybody and I was fine. So I wasn't really ready to exhibit and to hear criticism to my work. And then we did it, and we discovered that the project is beyond being an artist. The label itself is not interesting. What is interesting is really to have a certain discourse about our culture. And even in every single detail that I'm working, either in architecture or in art, I'm still defending this label, this identity, entitled Arabic culture, on which we have a lot to do. Unfortunately, we didn't make our job to complete or to fulfill what is needed for this culture. So maybe my contribution is very, very modest regarding it, but I'm trying my best to expand it as much as I can.
Thank you so much for being with us today on the show. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Lea.
Can a simple shade of green shift the way we see, think, or even feel? Here at Mark Hachem Gallery, Syrian-British artist Sara Shamma explores interference green, a vibrant shifting shade that changes with light and angle, reflecting how perception itself is fluid and dynamic. This color is more than pigment. It's a metaphor for interruption, tension, and transformation, the very themes of her new exhibition. Celebrated for her unique layering technique, Sara's canvases transcend the two-dimensional plane, appearing almost sculptural, as transparent layers give way to thick, vibrant brushstrokes that seem to float in space. Interference green is an invitation to experience the infinite spectrum of green, not just as a color, but as an evolving exploration of depth and perspective. What kind of art gets you thrown in jail at 21 and banned from public transport 100 years later? In early 1900s Vienna, Egon Schiele shocked the world with raw, unfiltered portraits, figures that were twisted, skeletal, and almost painful to look at. His sharply drawn, angular lines and intense use of color marked him as an early champion of Austrian Expressionism, a movement that rejected traditional beauty and embraced psychological depth and distorted forms. But it wasn't just the art. Schiele lived with his teenage muse Wally, defying social norms. At 21, he was jailed for displaying immoral drawings in a space where children could see them. He died at just 28 from the Spanish flu, but his work still stirs discomfort. In recent years, ads featuring his nudes were banned from London's metro for being too explicit. A century later, Schiele's portraits are still too raw to ignore, and maybe that's exactly why they matter. That's it for today's episode. Stay inspired. Until next time.